Alright, let's try to make our own. Let me close what I had last class. And let's make a new project. And I'm gonna call these file examples. I'm gonna make one class, new class. I'm gonna call this class with a static void main. I'm gonna call this class file demo, and I'm gonna have a static void main. There's my class, and I said I needed to import a couple libraries, right? Import java.io. I need to import the javax.swing. So to make my life easier, instead of writing there my my file in the input and output, I'm just gonna make a constant. That's when it's a good time to make a constant. And I'm gonna call this constant my flat file or text file. So it's gonna be public static final is a string. I'm gonna call it my file, my text file. And notice I got that red squiggly line, and that's because I'm using escape characters. So I need to use double backslash. So whatever your flash drive is, wherever you have your project, that's one you should use. So let's say before I use my main, I'm gonna use this public or private static void. I'm gonna say write text file. I make my own method, and in my main, all I'm gonna do for now is call that method. Nothing really extraordinary there. Now, I mean, my main all it does is call this method that's below, and the method simply has nothing yet. So inside this method, I'm going to have my PrintWriter class. I declare it there. And I'm going to have my try catch sections. Every time I work with files, and in the catch section, I had to do is I did, instead of putting the contents of the message inside the exception class, all I did was put the ex.getMessage here, which is pretty much the same thing. So inside my try, I'm gonna have pw equals new PrintWriter. I'm gonna use my text file there. And of course, when I'm done with the file, I need to close it, right? If I were to run this right now, the program has been terminated. And there's this file called test.txt, but has nothing in it. As you can see, it's blank. Even here, the size is 0 kilobytes because it didn't do anything there. I want to have a scanner class. I'm gonna call this keyboard actually. It will be my new scanner. And it's gonna tell me I need to import it, right? So that's utility.scanner. And I need a string. I'm gonna call it current line. And I'm gonna have a loop. If the string is empty, then I'll assume that we stop writing stuff. But if the string is not empty, we want to write it to the file. So I'm gonna read at least one time that line. So I need a do loop. So I need to give it an initial value. It's gonna be an empty string. Current line, look at the current line here as initial value, empty string. So in the loop, what I'm going to say is do while this loop, that current line has some characters, so the length is greater than 0. So right now, my loop will execute. There's nothing in the body of the loop, and then it's gonna see, is the current line length greater than 0? Well, no, because the current line right now is just an empty string, right? So I'm gonna, before the loop, I'm gonna give the message to the user to type anything empty string to end. Or whatever you want to use as instructions. So my current line, I will say current line equals keyboard.next line, right? I read once. And if the current line length is greater than 0, then I'm gonna save this. So this line opens file to read, instructions, loop executes at least once, read a line, if the line wasn't empty, save the line onto the file. Close the file. So I got some documentation there. Can you read that? There. Alright, so let's run this. So here it's my message, says type anything, empty string to end. So I start saying, hello world, how is it going? How's it going? Where are my chargers? In LA. And then empty string, so basically I don't type anything. I enter, and now it says terminated. If I go to the file here, now look, the file has like 1 kilobyte. If I double click on it, there's the file. So if I run this again, I can say, I don't care, I am a 49er fan. If I open that file again, whatever was there before got erased. I mean, I can type stuff in the file itself. So, you understand the concept here of how to write a file? Let me show you. You know what the command prompt is? Right? It's that little black box that shows up. I can just do command. This is my command prompt. Now you can read that. I hope. So, if you look at the Explorer here, see users, where's my name here? That's where this command prompt is at. And you can see I have a desktop, right? I can go to the desktop here and pretty much has those two files as eBay 1 and 2. And there's two files, eBay 1 and 2, because those are for this, for myself only. The rest are common shortcuts. So in the command prompt, I can change the directory to my desktop here. So cd means change directory. And now I can make a directory there. So md makes directory. And I can say my new folder, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Oh, look at that. There's a folder there called my new folder. So and then once I do my new folder, I'm going to change directory to that my new folder. Actually, no, I'm not going to change. I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy every PDF into my new folder. Look at my new folder. It has those two files. Then I can delete them. So I can go to delete my new folder. That will delete all the files that are in there. Yeah, you want to, sure. Now notice my new folder is empty again. And I can erase that. RD, remove directory. Why am I telling you this? Now it's gone, see? Because you can write all this into a batch file. So let's do this. Let's run our program. And I'm gonna type what I just said. So it was cd. Alright, I'm gonna do this cd users and then I'm gonna say md my new folder and then copy every PDF into my new folder. And that's it. Well, right now it's just a text file. That, oops, where was it? There's my text file. That's what I typed. But the text file has a txt extension. A batch file, instead of txt, it has a bat extension. You want to change it? Yeah. So notice here, I don't have that folder, right? But if I go back to here and double click on the batch file, it executed it. And there's my new folder with the files. And you didn't even see how fast it went. So sometimes, at some point, you're gonna do backups for a server or something, and you only want to copy certain files. You don't want to copy every file. That's called an incremental backup. And you can programmatically write your batch file. Let me put it back to txt so I can read it. All right, questions? You know how to write files now? Let me show you how to read files. So I'm not gonna use the write text file. I'm gonna make another method, call it read text file, and that's what this is going to do. The main is just going to read a text file. So in my text file, I'm going to read. Well, I'm going to work with files, obviously. So I need my try catch. And I have J's option pane, right? Show message dialog. No. I call it EX, doesn't matter. That's just a variable name. So I'm gonna say file reader. I need a reader, and I need a scanner. But I'm not gonna call it keyboard this time. I'm gonna call it file, and I need a string for the current line. It's file reader, no file read. My apologies. So this file reader has let's say I didn't put the full path. Maybe it's a mistake. So I know if I remove a letter, the path doesn't exist, right? So look what happens when I try to run it. Yeah. So what I did was I went to the folder where I want it in Windows Explorer, and I click on the icon here of the folder, and I just copy paste that. And of course you gotta replace every backslash with dual backslashes, and then at the end I put the file name. So I don't know where if you put it in your flash drive or in the local C drive. Alright, so now I'm gonna do the scanner, but this time it's gonna be pointing from or to the buffer. And of course when I'm done reading the file, I close the file. Alright, so I'm gonna say while now I did a pretest loop, right? While the scanner has next, I'm gonna read and then I'm just going to display that on the screen. So if I run this now, see, display the contents of the file. Questions? I'll help you in a second. Alright, take 10 minutes and then I'm going to show you how to append to a file. Alright, so next I'm going to show you how to append to a file. But before I do that, I want to point out to something we did. So here, my scanner class, the constructor, that's a constructor, right? Because it has the new keyword. As a parameter, is taking a pointer to a FileReader class or a FileReader object. But when we were doing the file text, the write text file, the scanner here, this is not FileReader. That's a keyboard stream. So there are like two flavors of the scanner, right? Or the constructor of the scanner. One that takes a stream to the keyboard, and another one that takes a stream to a file. So when you have two different types, we call that overloading. So overloading means there's a method that has the same name but takes different parameters. For instance, our system dot out, that print line, if you look at this, if I do print line, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different print lines. One takes a string, one takes nothing, one takes a boolean, a character, an array of characters, double, float, integer, long, and object. So somebody wrote a method for each one of those. They just call it the same name. So we're going to try to do that too for our file that we're appending. So let me collapse this, and I'm going to leave the read text there, but I'm going to make another method called public static void. I'm going to call it write text file also, but this one is going to take a parameter, type boolean, and I said, do we want to append? Okay. And notice, if I come to right here, write text file, I can do it like that, or I can pass a parameter, and it still works because there are two flavors. So an overload method is a method that has the same name but with different signatures. So what's the signature? Is the combination of the method and the parameter list, right? That's the signature. So I'm going to copy paste a couple things here that I need. I'm going to try Alright, so like we read from a file, we use the file reader, right? We can also use a similar class to write to a file. We don't have to really use that PrintWriter. We can call this class called FileWriter. Just like the PrintWriter. This FileWriter works the same way as the PrintWriter. So I could do FileWriter FW equals new FileWriter, and I can just use my txt file. Oh wait, that gives me an error. Let's see what it says. Oh my, not empty. So it looks FileWriter. If I hover my mouse, it gives me an explanation. But there's another version of the FileWriter called Do Append. And that works too. If I hover my mouse again over, it says string file name boolean append. So this FileWriter works pretty much the same way. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna copy paste all this here for now, and I'm gonna modify it. Instead of PW, I'm gonna call it FW. And let's see. Let me take a look at something real quick here. I think it's like this. Yeah. Oops. So I still need the PrintWriter. But this time, what the PrintWriter is gonna do when I create the new PrintWriter, instead of passing a string like I had before, I'm gonna use an overloaded constructor. I'm gonna pass the FileWriter instead. And then everything else will work the same. So right now, this is what my file looks like. Ends at that copy PDF new folder, right? So what happens if I run this now? I'm gonna say delete. I'm gonna say cd my new folder maybe, and then delete PDF. And then go back and then remove directory, my new folder. It doesn't matter what you type. Now, if I open my file, see, he printed it out for me. It was up to here. Now, he added the stuff at the end. So one thing I really don't like is when you copy paste code. That is really bad habit. So I have two flavors, right? The text file with no parameters and the one with one parameter. The one with one parameter, it will say true or false. So this one with no parameters, I can get rid of all that code and simply call the other write text file. So take a look at this. I'm gonna just erase the file. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. So how do I do a breakpoint? Double click there. There's the dot, and then go to this cockroach icon. It's my debug, and now my breakpoint is that dot, and then it's highlighted green to say what's the next line to execute. So it says write text file with no parameters. All right, let's go there. I'm gonna use this step into, and now it goes to this write text file, and then it's like, oh, now I'm inside this code. And then that's the next line to execute, right? And then next. And then went to the other one. Notice? I can just continue on and say, hello world. And then print it out. Alright, let's exit the debug mode. And if I double click the file here, all it says is hello world. So today you learn how to read and write text files, append to text files, and you know how to overload methods. That's a lot. So the same way you overload methods, you can overload constructors. We're gonna talk about more of those next time, and destructors. I think we're good there. Questions?